Good morning, everyone. My name is Carolyn Way. I know I've met many of you. I'm a PWLE. I'm a mom. I sit on the Senior Leadership Committee, and I also co-lead the Social Justice Indigenization Inclusion Committee with Stacey Madrison. So again, good morning. Adrienne Kodire, the co-chair of ACCESS, was supposed to speak to you this morning, and unfortunately she's been sick, the terrible flu. I do have some words from Adrienne's, but I want to share some of my own thoughts with you first. When Christine asked me if I could jump in, I said, okay. So I might go over the 5 minutes that I think I'm supposed to be allotted. So I wanted to give you a little bit of a history. I know some of you know the story about Helena's Hope. I'm going to give you the Coles Notes version from my perspective. Probably just dated and regionalized myself by saying Coles Notes, but that's just a quick version of what happened. So back in 2017, Helena Kirk's mom, Sarah, called me up and said to me, don't you have a background in health policy? And she was looking for some help in supporting Helena in advocating for access to clinical trials because Helena was advocating for access to clinical trials because she was watching her friends pass away. And I said I would help, but going back to what we've heard today about Voices for PWLE, I said I would help, but I also wanted to tack on things that were important to me, which was survivorship and like a hope for a national pediatric cancer strategy for Canada. When you have 60 days to sit in an isolation room with your toddler, you muse about a lot of different things in life. Now, for those of you who haven't met Sarah before, her superpower is being able to network in a room, everyone in a room, and have a rough idea at the end of it, what you do for a living or what you used to do for a living. And so this is how I found myself in a group with Adrienne, a woman named Jo Gandal, Julie Jouett, and Kathy Moten, who we formed the background support to Helena's Hope. And so Sarah managed to bring together health policy, communications, academia, knowledge translation, and government regulations into a group that supported a very passionate and articulate survivor. In 2019, we led a big push with families. Over 100 families wrote to and in many cases met with their MPs across the country, across party lines. Parents went out to do this because we said, we want to push for more funding for childhood cancer. What we asked for was dedicated funding for a national childhood cancer strategy and funding for clinical trials. In 2019, the Liberal Party announced investments in childhood cancer research as part of their election platform. And in 2021, the Liberal government announced the first budget item in the federal budget dedicated to childhood cancer. And as much as we celebrated this big win for our community, we knew it wasn't a sustained commitment. Now, Helena's Hope didn't work alone. ACORN, C17, folks from Profile, and here I'm going to really apologize because there were simultaneous conversations that were happening in various groups, but Patrick and Antonia, Kathy, Jim, Daniel, and I thought I had met Jason Berman for the first time this year, and apparently he's been sitting in my inbox since 2019, looking at edits from our briefing notes. So we also couldn't have done this without the support of 3 MPs who really championed Helena's cause. So that's MP Nate Erskine-Smith, Pam Demanoff, who's no longer an MP, and Anita Vandenveld. And so fast forward today, I'm really proud and privileged to be part of ACCESS and how we have worked together to create a network. You've heard about our path to get here today, our accomplishments when we work together as a collective. On Monday, I heard at the co-leads meeting, how could we continue to do this work? At my dinner group, we talked about how do we set minimum standards for transportation and access to care across all provinces, something that ACCESS could do quite easily together. To close off Tuesdays, you heard from survivors talk about the work of ACCESS from a PWLE survivor perspective, and Venetia specifically asked us, if there's no access, then what will happen to PWLE? And so here I'm going to read you Adrienne's remarks. Again, I asked her if she had wrote anything, so I wouldn't have to. And she said no, but then sent me this 10 minutes later. Okay. So, and now you'll know why I bookend it, because we have very different stats. Okay, so if not, she wrote, if not us, then who? When you become a parent, you spend a lot of time imagining the future. You imagine the ordinary milestones that make up a life. The first day of school, learning to ride a bike, graduations, a career, a life that unfolds the way it should. What you don't imagine, what no parent imagines, is becoming part of the pediatric cancer world. But once you are here, once you see it up close, something changes. You see the courage children carry every single day. You see families navigating fear and uncertainty with incredible strength. And you see the extraordinary dedication of clinicians, researchers, and healthcare teams who are working tirelessly to make things better. But you also see something else. You see how much work still lies ahead. You see treatments that have not changed in decades. You see the long-term effects that many children carry with them for the rest of their lives. And you see the questions researchers are still racing to answer. And eventually, every parent who enters this world comes out with the same realization. This is not someone else's problem to solve. It belongs to all of us. At some point, the question becomes unavoidable. If not us, then who? Who will push for the research children urgently need? Who will keep pediatric cancer visible in a world where rare diseases can easily be overlooked? Who will challenge the status quo when progress is too slow? And the answer is simple, all of us. Advocacy in pediatric cancer does not belong to just one group. It does not belong only to parents. It does not belong only to researchers or clinicians. Advocacy lives in the space between all of us. It lives in the scientist who refuses to accept that progress must move slowly. It lives in the clinician who pushes for better trials, better treatments, and better outcomes. And it lives in the parents who share their experiences, so the urgency of this work is never forgotten. Advocacy takes many forms. Sometimes it looks like groundbreaking research. Sometimes it looks like designing a clinical trial that asks a better question. Sometimes it looks like speaking up in a meeting, challenging assumptions, or asking why something has always been done the same way. Refusing to accept that the current reality for children with cancer is good enough. That is what makes ACCESS so important. ACCESS brings together the people who are willing to carry that responsibility. Researchers pushing the boundaries of science, clinicians working directly with children and families, parents who understand at the deepest possible level why this work cannot slow down. And when those perspectives come together, something powerful happens. Advocacy becomes collective. It becomes a shared commitment to move faster, think bigger, and work differently. Because pediatric cancer research does not advance through isolated effort. It advances through collaboration, through people who care deeply enough to keep asking difficult questions, through people who are willing to say, we can do better. And we must do better. The children and families living this reality today need us to continue working together effectively and advocate relentlessly for the future they deserve. And when we look around this room at researchers, clinicians, parents, and partners who are part of ACCESS, we should see something important. Every person here is an advocate through the research you pursue, through the questions you ask, through the partnerships you build, through the courage to push for change. Because the future for children with cancer is not something that will simply arrive. It is something we are building right now, together. So when I ask that question, if not us, then who, the answer becomes very clear. It is us, all of us, and the children who come after us who will live in the future we choose to build today. So the real question is not whether we are advocates. The real question is what we will do with that responsibility. And so that was from Adrian. And I found the email I sent back on April 19th, 2021 to a group of people, some of the names that I kind of already mentioned. April 19, 2021 was the release of the federal budget when we were successful in our original advocacy. A bit overused, but so appropriate. Congrats to all. Step one to what I hope is a national strategy. And of course, the quote is Margaret Mead's, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And so I started my version of Helena's hope story of what we need to get sustainable funding is insurmountable. So to get from 2017 to 2021 is actually a very short period for advocacy efforts. But for today, we're going to need a different group, a bigger group, and we have a much shorter timeline. But what we do have is now a committed vision for a national pediatric strategy, a vision that is a collective, that we are on our way to co-create. And I've heard over the last couple of days that many of you are part of this vision and are supportive of it. We are targeting as one piece. I know we're going to have a different discussion, but we've had multiple conversations where we know that one of the target parts is the fall federal budget. Work has to already start to get us onto that runway to see something happen in November. That's one advocacy piece. And finally, I just wanted to end with our vision that we talk about at ACCESS. Jim's already said it, but I'm just going to say it again. A vision for our collective that we're going to work together on is where every child with cancer in Canada should have access to the latest scientific advances, diagnostic tools, innovative therapies, and supportive care leading to better health outcomes and quality of life.